Alrighty, so Warrior received some change. We got nerfed quite a bit. And there's just no sugarcoating that. That's just what happened. Because Fury Slayer was doing pretty good. But one of the things that's kind of very weird about Fury right now is that our tier set bonus is basically dog shit and provides almost nothing. There's an article by Arkham Tyros. Let me see. The War Within Warrior tier set. Tier set guide. Tier set bonus review, right? But this one here. The 4-piece bonus where things get sticky. Unlike Dragonfly, Bloodthirst is now used every 4th global, which it still is. Didn't he have numbers here? Yeah, here we go. The 4-piece bonus, even in Slayer's high use case scenario, the bonus contributes roughly 0.5% increased damage. Just woefully underpowered for a 4-piece tier set, right? So, right now, Slayer Fury was performing very well with a god-awful 4-piece that was doing almost nothing for us, right? So, with these changes, with these nerfs, it is I potentially see them remaking or reworking our 4-piece, so it's actually good, decent, which would make these changes make more sense. But let's go through them first, right? Arms, Blade Master's Torment now grants 8 seconds of sweeping strikes instead of the full duration. So instead of casting it, it gives you 8 seconds. However, this 8 seconds will be added to any additional sweeping strikes and vice versa, similar to the other Warrior Torment talents. Now, this is interesting. There is a boss, the Silken Court, which is 2-target cleave for a decent amount of time, right? There's a lot of time you're 2-targeting these bosses. And one thing that is to note about this change is now that means every minute and a half, we have 8 additional seconds of sweeping strikes. And if it's good enough that we're talenting it, it means that we could be talenting improved sweeping strikes on top of that, which makes our 15-second sweeping strikes makes our 15-second sweeping strikes with talent go to 21 plus 8 seconds for 29 seconds of sweeping strikes. And remember, sweeping strikes duration or cooldown is 30. So that means every minute we are getting another 21 seconds on top of that. Now we're going to get another 21 seconds on top of that for the last 130 window. So basically the way I looked at it is every 30 seconds are casting sweeping strikes, and then you're also using Avatar every minute and a half. So out of every 90 seconds, right? Every 90 seconds, which is a minute and a half, we are getting 71 of those seconds of improved sweeping strikes. That is a lot of 2-target cleave. Like a legitimately a lot of 2-target cleave. Because we can advance this, right? So this means every 3 minutes, we're getting that. Every let's say we're doing let's say the boss is 4.5, 5 minutes, right? In a 5-minute boss period, we are getting, actually, interestingly enough, this would be plus another 29, because if it's 5 minutes at the 4:30 mark, you're getting your last Avatar plus sweeping strikes. So let's say it's a 5-minute boss fight. A 5-minute boss fight, so 242. Remember that number, 60 times 5, 300, 242 divided by 300. That means 80% of a 5-minute boss fight, we have 2-target cleave with this Blade Master's Torment buff. It's a lot. That's a lot. 80% uptime of Blade Master's Torment. That's crazy. That's a lot of 2-target, which might be crazy good on the Silken Court. Who knows? We don't know exactly what the Mythic fight's going to be like yet, but that has potential, right? That has potential. But the problem is, Arms is pretty far behind Fury currently, on top of the fact that I just don't know why Arms didn't get any buffs with this. Like, it just doesn't make any sense why you wouldn't. If you're going to nerf Fury to even it out, you should actually buff Arms to compensate, right? And they also did another technical nerf to arms, which is this Fierce Follow-Through change for Slayer. Now grants 10% additional damage to your next Mortal Strike or Bloodthirst, instead of 15%. But we'll talk about that a little later. I don't know why they nerfed arms and Fury. I guess maybe they just changed the tooltip to 10% to nerf Fury, and then arms just gets fucked for 5%, I guess. I don't know why. Let's go over to Fury, though. Rampage. Damage increased by 15%. Okay, cool. Raging Blow damage increased by 10%. Nice. Improved Raging Blow's chance for Raging Blow to reset its own cooldown increased to 25%. Hey, that's pretty good. Bloodthirst damage reduced by 10%. That's not great. Odin's Fury damage reduced by 15%. That is actually warranted. Something that is very special about Odin's Fury is the fact that it was overperforming in single target as an AoE spell. And one of the reasons it was overperforming is because of the new Thunderous Words. Thunderous Words bleed, so increase the duration of Thunderous Words bleed effects, and Thunderous Words bleed effect causes damage to take 30% increased damage from all of your bleeds. And Odin's Fury is a very, very large amount of bleed damage, right? So what we were actually doing for single target is we weren't even taking the capstone, because the capstone's not even very good. The Titanic Rage is okay for AoE, but for single target, Dancing Blades is worthless. It's not very good. On every 5-minute target test I did between Dancing Blades and Titanic Rage, it was only about 1% damage for a capstone, and that's 1% melee damage, so it had no AoE value at all. Just 1% melee damage, which isn't really worth much at all. So Odin's Fury, because it was overperforming to that point, and it was overperforming because of Thunderous Words, it did warrant a bit of a nerf. I do kind of wish that additional AoE power was brought back into Titanic Rage, because instead of taking Titanic Rage, we were taking Hack and Slash to facilitate dry spots in our spam, right? So our Bloodthirst and our Crushing Blow casts, when we ran out of charges of these or they were on cooldown, instead of having something like Onslaught there, which is made to be a single target filler plus Rage Builder, it's a decent button for single target, right? It's made to be a decent button for single target. Instead of running Onslaught, we were actually just facilitating the use of the damage of Odin's Fury by not taking the capstone and taking something like Hack and Slash or Wrath and Fury to give us enough charges back of Crushing Blow to always have something to press, instead of needing to have Onslaught to fill that role instead. And that's why Odin's Fury Slayer was performing so well, because Odin's Fury got buffed. It was getting buffed by Bloodborne. It was getting buffed by Thunderous Words. And because we did not require the capstone, we could use it. We could use that extra point in Wrath and Fury or Hack and Slash to facilitate our normal rotation on single target without needing something like Onslaught. So they're nerfing Odin's Fury, which instead I think they also need to buff Onslaught a little bit, because Odin's Fury, and I don't know if Onslaught needs a buff, because something to consider is if we're going to play Onslaught more on single target, that means we're going to be taking Tenderize. Tenderize gives us 3 stacks of Slaughtering Strikes. Slaughtering Strikes increases our Rampage by 60%. So this is every time you hit this button, your next Rampage does 60% more damage on top of and that is amplified by the base damage increase of 15%. So it does buff Onslaught in that manner, instead of just buffing the amount of damage the button does itself. Well, let's go through the other changes. Crushing Force now gives 2 to 4% Bloodthirst crit chance instead of 5 to 10, so this talent was nerfed by 60% for crit. And then fixed an issue that caused Crushing Force to increase Bloodthirst damage by 20% instead of the listed 10%. Okay, and then here's the kicker. Reckless Abandon's Bloodbath damage reduced by 26%, and Crushing Blow damage reduced by 3%? 3% thing's just kind of fucking weird, and 3% is basically nothing. But they heavy-handedly took an axe to Bloodbath, because here's how all of those nerfs stack up. We're potentially missing 5% from Fierce Follow-Through, since we sent a lot of Bloodthirst as Fury. We are now losing 10% from Bloodthirst damage. We're losing an additional 10% on top of that, so now Bloodthirst is down 20% base and potentially another 5% base. And it has reduced crit chance. And when it's amplified by the Reckless Abandon buff, it is now reduced by a further 6% on top of all of those previous nerfs. So Bloodthirst received a fucking, not a slap, it received a kick in the ass, man. They wanted that thing fucking gone because it was doing really well. And the other problem is that when Bloodthirst does really well, Fury in general also does pretty well in Execute because of Vicious Contempt. Now, when you're in your Execute phase, Bloodthirst is doing 50% increased damage. So, I guess they just didn't like how much Execute damage it was doing on top of how much damage it was doing just within your rotation anyway, because it was a really good button. One thing that I like, because they want you to press it, and you're still going to press it because of the hero talents, but one thing that I kind of don't like is Bloodthirst was finally, right? Finally a button you wanted to press. It was just a button you finally wanted to fucking press. It was a good button. You wanted to hit it. You wanted to hit it all the time. It was good. And it's been Fury's iconic ability since vanilla. Wow, it's been in this game for, Jesus Christ, almost 20 years. Let it be good, man. Let it be good. I mean, it's still going to be something we press because obviously Bloodthirst and Bloodbath activate a lot of things within the Mountain Thane and Slayer tree. So we're still going to be pressing it because they still want us to press it, but they want us to press Crushing Blow more. They're buffing Raging Blow. They're making Raging Blow reset itself a little more. I don't really know how this looks on terms of like a DPS nerf because it's definitely significant. It's definitely decent for a DPS nerf. It also incentivizes Onslaught for single target for sure. But one of the reasons why you hear me so annoyed at these changes, right? One of the reasons why I'm actually annoyed isn't because what's here, right? This is fine. It's nice to be strong, but like if they want to rein us in a little bit, maybe fix our tier set so it like is better. This is okay. This is not okay. In fact, outside of this Blade Master change, Arms essentially received a nerf through Fierce Follow Through. It got no changes when Arms really needs some help. It's not doing the damage it needs to do. Its Execute rage economy is in fucking shambles. It has a lot. There's not a lot of problems, but the problems are very impactful for Arms. And I am very, very surprised to see Arms just getting no help whatsoever in these changes. And the other reason why I'm also mad at this is guess what was doing way more damage than Slayer Fury? Arcane Mage. On a good Arcane Mage was doing like 1 million damage sustained throughout a raid boss encounter, right? And that's not even cheesing AoE shit. That's just doing good damn. Slayer Fury was like at the 700, maybe like 600-700, maybe medium 700s, like on pure single target if things were going well, right? So we're doing what, 20% less damage in Arcane. So if we're doing that much less damage than the best spec in the game, Arcane, then obviously they must have just completely nuked Arcane from orbit too, right? Obviously they would have nuked it. They nerfed Spell Slinger a little bit. Teaching's damage bonus reduced in half. Reduced chance to trigger 3%, 3%. You look at Arcane. Missiles buffed. Barrage nerfed a little bit. Arcane Orb nerfed a little bit. Aether Attunement, but basically, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know too much about Mage, right? I don't know a lot about Mage, and I don't know how much these actually impacted their damage. But like, Fire's still getting buffs. Frost is still getting buffs on top of the Arcane adjustments. Why does every single patch let Mage take an entire page for itself, every fucking patch notes, and then Warrior's like, meh, we're here. Arms is kind of here. Like are they like what's going on over there, man? Because if it was like, hey, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna tweak this, we're gonna get this to where we want it, and then we'll move on and we'll work on other things. But they haven't moved on. It's just fucking mage hour every goddamn patch notes, dude. Shaman is finally getting something. And now they're gonna get a raid buff. They're changing Resto and Elemental. I think they said something about Enhance kind of being similar, but like as we get closer and closer to the expansion launch, I become more and more critical of stuff like this because there is obviously less and less time. Arms need help. Where's the arms adjustments? It's just a fucking flat out Fury nerf. No, basically no arms changes without a technical nerf. And hey, their two targets kind of maybe got a weird two target niche. Maybe. I don't know. I'll be honest. I'm definitely being far more negative than I should be, right? I'm definitely being far more negative, but it's still something. It just annoys me and it irks me when Arms is so far behind, and then Fury is doing so well. And instead of going, all right, we're gonna do instead of this, we're gonna go, we're gonna bring it a little closer, right? And instead of doing that, we're just, bah. What about this? You do the same for fucking mage specs. What about warrior? I don't know. Maybe it's late. It's like fucking 5 a.m., man. Maybe I'm just cranky. I don't know. But the other problem, or the other reason why I'm also annoyed about this, is because of this, which is they're adding essentially, I don't know if this is for tuning or what. They added additional raid testing yesterday for today. Let's see what it is. I'd like to announce some additional testing times. We understand short notice. We identified the need to additional testing to gather feedback and performance data. So they're doing this for tuning, but they're not putting in the changes to see how well they perform with tuning, and instead they're going to go in next week. Just put the fucking changes in and let us see what it looks like in a raid fight. Man, come on. I'm sure people who are way smarter than me and are better at math than me, or just want to put more time into the math than I have, can tell us how, based on the breakdowns of our current Fury, how much of a nerf this is. But why are you making changes like this and then just not putting them in for testing, for specifically performance testing? Like, what's the fucking point? I don't know. I guess I'm just irritated and annoyed and a little cranky. So, realistically, like I said, it's fine. Where's the arms help? We're running out of time. Otherwise, we're doing okay. I'm just kind of being doomed. All right. Bye bye.